And my question to you is, are you fighting the battle with mental health, or are you afraid to talk about it? So my thing is, I've talked about that multiple times on this podcast, and how important it is to really just be honest. You feel me? And I had to learn that for myself, right? I got to thinking a few weeks ago that, is mental health really something that everyone needs to be medicated for, right? And I never came up with an answer. But the one thing that I kept thinking about was, does the anxiety of mental health come from an increased level of responsibility outside of your normal? Or does it come from let's get this podcast rolling. Let's get this podcast rolling. Can't have no mistakes right now. Been trying to get the podcast going for the last some odd minutes. You know. But we back with another episode of MTMJ Fit Podcast. I am your host, MTMJ, and this week is gonna be a lot of this and a lot of that, but it's gonna be a good podcast, man. We got a good podcast for y'all. I appreciate the supporters of the podcast, whether you listen to it on Apple. If so, make sure you rate and review the podcast. It helps the podcast with advertisement. Make sure you follow on Spotify, Spreaker, iHeart, Deserve, and wherever you get your podcasts. This is episode 5 of the podcast. I went to Vegas October 7th through the 11th. And let me tell you, I went to Vegas thinking, it was going to be hot and humid. It didn't get no higher than 75 degrees, but needless to say, I enjoyed my time away. Went to get this nice massage, right? And it had to be some sort of massage that gets all the aches and pains out, because she took her shoes off and started walking across my back. But she was doing some funny things with her toes, right, that I had never experienced before in a massage. So it was different, man, but they did a great job. Spent a lot of money in Vegas, too. But you know what they say about Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? All right, man. So last week, or the past week or two, has had given up so much bulletin board material that I don't even know where to start at. So I'm just going to go right into it. Let's start with talking about a little bit about Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is sidelined from playing any NBA games because of his choice not to take the vaccination, right? His team, for the most part, is on board with him and his thought process as it relates to the vaccination. And we're not going to make this podcast about the vaccination, right? I just think freedom of choice is so important, and you shouldn't have to sacrifice your personal beliefs for just money, man. You don't know. I think the vaccination affects folks individually. Each person has their own reaction to the vaccination, and as long as you do your research, man, you have to live and die with whatever choice you choose as far as when and if you take the vaccination. So I'm on board with Kyrie to a certain degree. To a certain degree. I think when he speaks about fighting for the voiceless, I don't know, man. No one has knocked on his door and crowned him the president of the voiceless. So I don't necessarily think he should take something he's doing for him and then all of a sudden says it's for someone else, right? Like I say, while I agree with everything he said, I can see where you can look at it and say it was up and down, man. The conversation switched, talked a little bit about money, talked a little bit about his long-term health, talked about a little bit about playing the game of basketball, something he enjoys. He talked a little bit about the clowns on TV that's attacking his character, which I disagree with. I don't think you should be personally angry at someone for freedom of choice. But I guess when they pay you that money, man, you think you can say anything you want. And that leads me to Stephen A. Stephen A. Smith really, buckled down and attacked that man outside of just basketball. While I don't agree with everything Kyrie Irving has done over the last 2 or 3 years, at least he's consistent. You feel me? He's been more consistent than more of the folks that are out here just saying and doing anything. You know what I mean? Now I want to get a little bit into Meek Mill's album cover, and it's displaying on city buses with what seems to be degrading images of women. I think I've never really been inside an art studio. I noticed there's one a few doors down from one of my employers. But what I could say is, based on what movies have shown us, right? The displayment of females, individuals, you base that on art, like how you feeling in the moment, right? So I think Joe Budden said it best, man, when you looking at a situation where there's a lot of money that's been put into the project. The execs are trying to find every way to maximize that situation and make sure they're not losing it. So whether good or bad, like Joe said it, in this situation, bad publicity could be good publicity when it comes to profitability. All right, so I want to talk about cancel culture, right? Davechappelle released his last stand-up in the contract that he signed with Netflix, and in that special, he talked about a little bit of everything. He talked about him being a sexist. He talked about LGBT community. He talked about COVID and how it attacked him and how he actually dealt with COVID. He talked about a little bit of other things, but I want to specifically speak on the LGBT community. And I think, my question to you would be, and I want you to leave that down in the comments, YouTube. Are they being sensitive, or is Davechappelle being insensitive? And this is for the people who actually watched the special, because I watched the special twice. The first time, I can honestly say I sat down and watched that special and I was barely paying attention. So when I started seeing some of the trends as far as the cancellation and Davechappelle and employees at Netflix walking off, and spokesmen from a non-profit I really never heard of before, it got me to thinking, are you paying attention to a statement in the moment, or did you listen to the entire message? And I think we've came far, man, in life. I think as blacks, as Mexicans, as Latinos, as the LGBT community, that sensitivity, while is high, you got to understand when you need to be sensitive and fight that good fight, and maybe when you overstepping and going overboard, and that's just my personal opinion, man. I want to talk about anxiety, so mental health. Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury fought 2 weekends ago. I was there. I enjoyed myself. Wasn't in the arena, but I watched the fight. Fury talked about the fight he had with anxiety and how he was afraid to sleep in the dark. He had gained tons of weight. He didn't really want to live, man. And my question to you is, are you fighting the battle with mental health, or are you afraid to talk about it? So my thing is, I've talked about that multiple times on this podcast, and how important it is to really just be honest. You feel me? And I had to learn that for myself, right? I got to thinking a few weeks ago that, is mental health really something that everyone needs to be medicated for, right? And I never came up with an answer. But the one thing that I kept thinking about was, does the anxiety of mental health come from an increased level of responsibility outside of your normal? Or does it come from fears of failure, fears of not accomplishing something or not succeeding in something, or financial fears, or just not being able to just be that person in the moment? And who do you talk to in those moments? I think for a long time, from my experience, I didn't see the need to go to therapy. Think prior to the pandemic, one of the things I wanted to do was figure out where I could grow, how to do it, how to get better, having a neutral party that would see what I'm saying and hear me out and not feel like, I'm being judged. So it was scary, but I had to find a way to, man, because when you sit back every day going through the struggle, day in and day out, with no one to talk to, and you're trying to find people to relate to, not necessarily seek advice from, but you're having those conversations and the advice that you're getting in the moment seems okay, but then after you're like, what the fuck just happened? No. Like for me, I have several good days followed by maybe a bad day. And that's okay. I understand it. I know when I need to stop or maybe slow down so I can really focus on just me, right? Because I say it all the time, man. And we're on at episode 5. There is tons of responsibilities that a man has to take on that I believe sometimes, yeah, people don't see where we coming from. But I do believe, but I really would appreciate if you could write down in the comments your thoughts as far as anxiety coming with increased levels of responsibility. What responsibilities have you had to like go the extra mile for? I have another good question though. Is the LGBTQ community in a similar fight for equality as blacks? Because I think if so, excuse me, they missed the message. Like I said in the Davechappelle special. I think, man, like that fight for inclusion, right, can be a little short-sighted because I believe there's a space for the LGBT community, but there's also a percentage of the LGBT community that's not necessarily as clean behind the ears or as that I can't even think of the word right now, but there's a percentage of LGBT communities, folk that are negative, aggressive, spoiled, if that's a good word. Just like blacks, whites, Latinos, because we want what we want. I think that each person, women, men, boys, or girls, we want what we want. But for the most part, you want to make sure you're working hard for it. So I hope I'm not boring y'all, man. I know I said I was going to play some music, but I started noticing I had to switch things up as far as my mic. I had to bring back out Old Faithful, really talk to y'all, because I've been sitting back and, it's good to spend time with yourself. I started running again this week, right? I set small goals, right? Just to stay consistent. That's just like your nutrition. Folks be so quick to eliminate every single thing in their diet that may cause fat or them to be big or out of shape. But it's the small wins that lead to major wins. So I said every 2 days, I'm going to go a mile and I'm going to go a half a mile. And I'm going to do that consistently, right? Building my cardio level up. Then after 2 weeks, I'm going to start doing a mile and a half, right? So when we roll right back around to the hot times, I'll be where Mike wants to be, not where society thinks I should be. So we started running again, and let me tell you something. I haven't felt this good in a while as far as my body, because, I'm sure you can see it. I used to be a little leaner, responsibilities, a little bit of work and more. All these things kind of not necessarily got in the way, because I'm still in the gym. Don't get it twisted. The muscles are there. We still in the gym, baby. But I started thinking about just, let's start running some more. My mental health and a lot of the pressures and stresses of life wasn't as severe when I was running. So I want to get back to that, so I strapped my boots up, got in there. Same thing first 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday I did a half a mile. Sunday I did a mile. I did the cardio first, core, and then I went into whatever body part I felt the need to focus on, not necessarily sticking to any one or two trends from social media, but necessarily going into the gym and sweating and putting in some good work. Man, I wish I had that. Wish I had the new pre-workout I got from EPN Nutrition. Code capital MJOHNSON 10 for 10% off. Go to epnnutrition.com and get your supplements. But make sure you try that level up. Listen, I've never experienced a quicker energy burst than I have since the few days I've been taking the level up. It does give you the focus. It does give you the stamina, all that good stuff you look for in your pre-workouts. I promise you, you won't be disappointed, man. Make sure you put my code in, MJohnson10 at EPN Nutrition. All right, so back to rapping with you guys. Man, that boy Bruce Allen. Look, this ain't a sports podcast, but I gotta talk about the things that are going on in the world that maybe my listeners or my viewers don't have a clue about. So a week or two ago, let's make sure, let's be exact, because I want to make sure I'm telling you everything you need to know. It really unfolded actually while I was in Vegas. But John Gruden got linked in some emails, an email scandal from the Washington football team, former GM Bruce Allen. And he went in, man. It started with him calling NFLPA lips some Michelin tires. No funnies though. When you watch that man talk. Hey, look, I don't know. I'm not trying to get canceled, so I'm not gonna say it. But I think what he said in that email, we talk about each other way worse on a daily basis. But I can see where he got a little crazy. He started talking about a lot of people. Now I haven't seen the emails. I didn't go looking for the emails. I just was watching the ESPN and everybody else report on the story. And I was surprised that he resigned, to be honest with you, until I remember that one of his players recently came out and said they are gay. Yep, recently. Yep, and I believe that played a major role in Jones Gruden resignation. So, and sorry for the pause, right? I'm just looking for something juicy to tell y'all about this story because, hey, Bruce Allen is the gift that keeps on giving. But he targeted Michael Sam. He targeted Roger Goodell. He targeted DeMaurice Smith, which is the NFLPA. His exact quotes was, DeMaurice Smith's lips are the size of Michelin tires. Woo. Shots fired. But he also got some nudity photos, though. Hell no, man. My question would be, right, if John Gruden was winning and had been winning consistently, would he have resigned? Or could you fire him because the team is winning consistently, of course, not just this year, but last year and the year before last. Could you just fire him? Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, but you know, I promise you, there's way more emails where you can find a white guy disrespecting a black guy, or a member of the LGBT community, or a sexist, or look, man, these white men, they nasty. They nasty, man. So sucks for Gruden. Adam Schefter of ESPN, he got caught up in it too. That's why I say, man, Bruce, he a gift that keeps giving. And I promise you, before it's said and done, you gonna hear more about that. I'll tell you that much, because it can't be just those two. It's got to be more. Like I say, this is not a sports podcast, but goddamn, I wish there'd be I wish there would be a giveaway for Dan Snyder to be completely done with this team. God, it's like we can't shake a story and then the team isn't performing well.